I don't even know what happened a while ago. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I clicked to get on. I'm not sure what happened. But how's everyone doing? Good afternoon. Bless up, Drew Ross. Thanks for being here. If you're an Arsenal fan, I'm sure you're probably going to like this discussion. If you're not an Arsenal fan, it's still good information to know, because then we are probably one of your rivals. You want to know what we're thinking, what we're going to be doing, if I can prognosticate well. But yeah, well, it's good to have a twin brother, Drew Ross. Good to have a twin brother. It's good to be here. You can't be blessed up one love. You can't be one dimensional, Drew Ross. You have to mix it up. You have to mix it up in life. You can't just be one dimensional. You have to mix it up. So it's been good. It's been good. It's been good. Someone gave me a hard time. It was a female the other day. They're like, I didn't know you could grow a beard. I didn't know you had a beard. Why did you grow that beard before? Give me a hard time about me having a beard, and I had to laugh because because she give me 1 second. She didn't see me with a beard ever. She saw me with a beard a long time ago, but it was dark then and never this amount and long time ago. So, but it's good to try something new and see if it works out. No one love. We're not talking about one love, Arsenal. Here's the thing, one love. If you want to be successful in life, if you want to really get things done the right way, you can't wait until it's going to be season beginning to talk about your team. You gotta reflect on the season. Bless up Joseph Brown, how the season went. And then you have to think about who should remain in your team and who should leave. And then last but not least, you also have to think about who we need to bring into the team to make the team better. And frankly, we have been unsuccessful this year, even though some people will say making Champions League semifinal is success. We've been unsuccessful. This is not the longest show, but the main purpose of the show is to talk about as Arteta reaches the limit with Arsenal. Now, first of all, for each of you out there in YouTube land, thanks for joining me. Welcome to the show. It's been 5 years under Mikel Arteta. 5 years of rebuilding, near misses, and hundreds of millions of dollars spent. Right? We have spent over 700 million. So it's a lot of money. Good evening, Omar. Thanks for being here. Joseph Brown says, just finished now. You left the military and you're growing a beard, trying a new thing. Cause in the military, the beard thing don't work, right? Short hair, no beard, clean face. So military, any sort of law enforcement, beard is not necessarily welcome. Some allow it, but it's not regular rest. At least when in the military, everybody was clean shaven and bald headed. So it's not rusting when I'm military. I'm in the military. If they were, it was in mind, not in how they appeared. So Mikel has reshaped the team. If you think about Arsenal and Arteta's rebuild, the question is it a success or what one would call surface shine? Is Arsenal a successful team given where we were on the Emery, or is just on the surface it looked good, but the substance is not there? So we should got to think about how did Mikel reshape the team post Emery. And by the way, I'm going to do some Reggae Boys show, if not later this week, next week, talking about a number of different things. I have something I want to talk about, but I've been sworn to secrecy, which is really bugging me because I don't know why I'm being sworn to secrecy about it. But as I've always said, if you tell me not to talk about something, I won't. But when the person give me the go ahead, I'll talk about it because I think it's important. And it's not about who's coming to the team, because I know that's the first thing people are thinking about. So if we think about Arteta's rebuild, we now have what I consider a dominant possession-based team that imposes its will on clubs, right? We have finished back-to-back seasons in second place the previous 2 seasons. Not sure we're going to finish this year, because that should be an interesting one, actually, given where things are. But we have had back-to-back seasons where we're in second place. And right now we are in second place, but we could finish anywhere from second to fifth, frankly, even sixth if things go really, really bad. But when Arteta took over, we were in 8th spot. Emery had about a season and a half. We were in 8th spot. He came in, won the FA Cup. I think we finished 8th subsequently, and we've been making progress upward ever since. So we finished 8th twice, but we have pushed Man City 2 years in a row. And frankly, if we had tweaked the side and got the striker we should have gotten, who knows, we may have won one of those years, especially the year before last year. Now, if you think about Arteta, and let me say what Joseph, well, as I go through these people, I'll just pull up some of the comments. Joseph Brown is saying, not an Arsenal fan myself, but all depends on what he has hired for initially. Has the team grown? Has the team plateaued? Is there not a coach out there that you think can bring you? So we'll talk about all of that, right? We'll be going through some kind of history lesson and come back to more substantively where we are and where we need to get to. Now, as I said, he's built an identity for Arsenal. We'll finish back-to-back second. We may finish second again this year, unless City or Newcastle pip us. The game against Newcastle coming up is going to be a decider. Good evening, Tony. Tony, where are you? And we had some, if you look at his era, he's had some key signings, actually. If you look at some of the key signings, Odegaard, Rice. Tony, I send you the link. Odegaard, Rice, White, Timber, Raya. You could even say Havertz, actually. It's been a good signing because before he injured himself this year, he played well. Probably had about close to double figures in goal or about double figures in goal. So he played well and has been injured for a while now. And we talk about those injuries because I think that part of the problem we have is we overplay players. In terms of youth development, I think Arteta in his first 3 or 4 years did a horrendous job of bringing youth in the team. If people remember, he initially sent Saliba out back on loan, saying he wasn't ready when he goddamn had Rob Holding in the team, who can't even get into Crystal Palace, can't even make Crystal Palace squad, but he had him in the team over, say, Saliba. And Saliba went on to be Young Player of the Year in France. Now, don't tell me, like some people are trying to tell me, oh, it was great for Saliba and he developed really well and it's great on Arteta. No, it wasn't. It was a horrible decision. If we had Saliba playing in the Premier League, we're probably in a better position. He played in the French league. He came up against the Neymars and the Mbappes of the world and held his own against them. When we sent him on loan, he was on loan for what, 2-3 years? So I'm not buying that. And also, that's why people like E.C. Hutchinson, who is now at Ipswich, left because he wasn't giving kids a chance. And he didn't bring through Saka. He may have helped develop Saka, but Saka was there and Emery. Emery brought Saka through. Emery brought Nketiah through. Emery brought Smith Rowe through. He didn't bring anybody through, frankly, until more recently. He brought in Nwaneri, and that was by chance because Nwaneri probably was going to look for something someplace else. His contract was out. We're desperate to keep him. So he made him the youngest player in the Premier League at age 15. That wasn't Arteta being, you know what, I'm giving youth a chance. That was Arteta being a corporate saying, I have to keep this player, so let me make him the youngest player in the history of the Premier League. And then next year, I didn't give him much game time. And even this year, so it's playing when I'm playing that much. Now, Miles Lewis-Kelly is a little bit different. He was forced to play Miles Lewis-Kelly. I think it was against City when we ran out of players. He was on the bench, obviously. He brought him in, did well, played next time, played well. And all of a sudden, the kid showed he has the ability to be in the team and stay there. All right? If you want to give him credit for Saka, then give him credit. If you want to give him credit for Martinelli, who to me has progressed, then regressed, then progressed, then you can do so. Now, I'll say this. Before Arteta came in and after Emery, we're probably in a dark place, right? Remember we went from Wenger, where we were just making top 4 and not competing, frankly, and couldn't defend ourselves. Mr. Tony, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing,
well, thank you, Bertram. How are you?
I'm doing my little soliloquy before you join me.
Yeah.
So we can jump into a more panel type discussion versus my soliloquy. So I was just saying that before Arteta jumped,
our beards are very similar.
Yeah. It's catching. It's catching. It's catching. It's catching. Maybe you had it before me. I don't know. Mine's only been here for like 4 weeks, 3.5 weeks, actually. I've had it. And you know what's funny about this, Tony? There's a reason why I shaved my head and my beard in the first place. Because I was getting gray. I'm like, I'm not having this gray. I wasn't going bald, you know. Maybe I'm going bald. I think I'm going bald now because I did grow my hair and see a little patch in there. But that was 2007. See how long ago that was?
Yeah.
I went to Florida to visit my mom when she was alive. I said, I don't believe I'm having gray hair. This is not happening. I shaved everything. She was not happy. This doesn't fit you. You shouldn't wear a bald head, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, I'm going to do it. I did it. She got used to it. I got used to it too. Everybody got used to it. And then more recently, I said, you know what? I'm retired now. Let's try something because I'm old now. Let's just accept the oldness. Let's accept being old. And I'm loving it. And my partner, she's like, I didn't know you had that kind of hair on your face. What the hell is this? Why are you doing this? Why weren't you doing this a long time ago? So it's all good. It's all good. How you doing? It's all good.
I'm doing well, brother. I'm doing well.
So we're talking about one of our favorite topics, as you know.
Indeed, yes.
Should we retain him or is he exceeded his ability, frankly? And let's be frank. We may have forgotten after Emery where we were, after Wenger and then after Emery where FTV was toxic. And toxic because we weren't performing, right? Fans were toxic because we weren't performing and we weren't doing well. And we couldn't see the forest on the trees. We had a bunch of old players who, if you looked at them, the entire team, you're like, damn, how do you get rid of all these players and bring in new blood and get the team to a good place? So we should be grateful in some respects that now we're a good ball dominant team that is up there with the elites. What's your thoughts?
So I listened to your soliloquy, and I think your points are very valid, especially in relation to bringing through young talent. One can easily forget about some of those failures early in the career of Mikel Arteta and just look at results in the last 2 years, which I think have been very much in focus in the last week. With the exit from the Champions League, a lot of people have, been reviewing his last 2 years and saying, well, quite clearly, he's doing things way above any other manager in the Premier League, because no other manager has as many points, no other manager has brought through as much talent, no other manager has competed at as high level.
I just put this up as you keep going. I just put this up, people. So this is what Tony mentioned, where over the last 3 years, he's had the second most points in the Premier League.
Yeah. So it is definitely a case of, which data do you most rely upon for your assessment? It's very difficult for me to not like what Arteta is doing when I see these statistics. When I look at, things like XG and possession and, other things that we currently rely heavily upon to look at, the way we perform as a team during games. So as a result of that, I think there's more in his favor than there is against him. But as I said, what you've identified is quite significant. You can't not look at those statistics on youth development and think that maybe he hasn't done as good a job as everyone thinks he has.
So let's think about this. If I think about a topic that informs some of the discussion, which is he a tactical genius or is he a game management gambler? You probably know my view on that. When you think about Arteta, do you view him a tactical, strategic genius, or is he a game management gambler? I call it. Can you hear me?
Yes. So, it's one of them glass half full questions. You look at each game individually and you look at in-game management. And yeah, I often agree with you with your point regarding, his in-game management being susceptible. But when you look at the end result, the overall picture, the fact that we haven't been beaten by a top six team for 3 years. I remember, 3 years ago, we were getting spanked by 5 and 6 on a regular by Man City and Liverpool. And we're no longer that.
We can't beat Newcastle, which is weird, but you want to call them top six.
It's weird. It is weird.
It's weird.
Yeah. But, every team has its hoodoo. Look at Man City. As good as they were, they could never beat Spurs for years.
True.
Spurs just seem to have their number, regardless of how good they performed against every other team in the league.
Yeah, that is true, especially when they had Kane.
Yeah. So I do think, you pick your poison. You kind of have to decide, right, I either like this style of football and I'm going to run with it, or I'm unhappy with it and I go elsewhere. And if you're an Arsenal fan, I think there are more than enough reasons why you would be satisfied with what has been delivered to you in the past 2 to 3 years. And I think you've got every justification to be able to turn around to anybody who doesn't believe in Arteta ball and say, well, your view is unfounded, or, at worst, biased.
So here's how I view this, which is this: tactical genius or game management, gamble, good game preparation. We're a ball dominant team. Defensively, we are great. Not just good, we are great. You don't see us getting smashed 5 and 6 or 4. Can't remember when we ever had that, actually. Even when we make a lot of bad mistakes later in the game. We have been leading. I think we lost like 9 or 10 leads this season, which is unheard of for a team that's so defensively good. But as we've talked about ad nauseum, the in-game management, inclusive of, say, substitution and timing, to me, just poor. And I go back to so many games. I go back to Man U 3 years ago. We're down 2-1, 20 minutes game remaining, and he put on Nketiah and a bunch of forwards, and people had no idea where they're playing. I go to other games where Man City, when we drew this year, we're down to 10 men, and our defense started at the 18. It didn't start above the 18. So what we did, we forced ourselves so far backwards that we had no room between the keeper and the last line of defense. So then we're on our heels, and they can shoot from the 18, which is crazy to me. I go back to games where I've been preaching for the longest that, you know what? Try Martinelli in the middle. He's quick. Force defense to go deeper, so we have more room to play because we're ball dominant. We tried him the last game. Oh, but everybody's all like, oh, wow, this is so great, wonderful. He looks good. He doesn't make decision well. He's quick. He's instinctive. Playing where you need instinctiveness, not on the wing where you have to get the ball and think and think and think. And we know that's not his forte, right? Having said that, the team that we have built and the players we have bought, we've had some bad buys, but the team we have built, if you think about what we have today, it's young, it's good, it's improving, right? So people, I'm not making the case for keep or go. By the way, I'm just giving you the facts as they stand, right? So it's interesting. Now, in terms of spending, we've spent big, right? And we're not having a silverware to show. One could say Man United fired their coach and he won them 2 trophies. Won them an FA Cup. He won them a Carabao Cup. They know in the final of the Europa Cup, and they have been awful. In fact, if the bottom 3 teams were better, they'd be fighting against relegation, right? Liverpool has won 2 trophies in the Champions League in the timeline that we haven't won anything. I'm not even using Man City as the barometer. I'm using more Liverpool versus Man City. And we have spent much more than Liverpool. We probably have spent more than Man City in that same window, even though overall they've spent much more than us to get up to speed, right? Man U has been horrible. They've probably spent more than us, and still they have made no progress. So in terms of big spending, we've spent big, but we don't have the trophies, any trophy. And the bad thing about that, Tony, is not only we have any trophy, we haven't made one final in the whole 5 years.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a big stumbling block, which, is, the chagrin of pretty much every Arsenal fan around the world. We all sit in that uncomfortable seat where our team have spent huge amounts of money and we expect better because we are, as they say, the Arsenal. And the Arsenal is built on, centuries of success. We've been no more than 20 years without trophy success at any stage in the history of the club. We won doubles in the 30s, we won in the 60s, we won in the 50s, we won in the 70s, we won in the 80s. So for us to go this long without trophies is definitely, against the grain of what it means to be an Arsenal fan. And that puts us as a juxtaposition of what do we want most, and I remember when I first met you, Stan, you were the big preacher of the sustainable model. And I was, screw that. Nobody else in the game of football is running the sustainable model. Yeah. Remember Man City and their sustainable model? It wasn't a sustainable model. It was a let's throw the money at the team and win now. Yeah, the Abramovich era. Throw the money at the team, win now. Deal with the aftermath after, years down the line. And I think it made all Arsenal fans jealous because it was like, well, you know what? We want that success. And if it has to come at a cost of outdoing your sustainability model, then I was always of the belief, screw the sustainability model. Let's go on. Let's move out of that era and let's start putting in place the pieces necessary to build a team to where it needs to be to succeed on the field, in finals, winning trophies. Because sustainability to me doesn't work. I'm sorry.
Well, I think the sustainable model has worked. I'm going to pull up something here. I think the sustainable model has worked. Look at this, because this is a sustainable model to me. Look at this. Look at these revenues, people. Look from 2015 to where we are today. We were in a place where 344, 353 went up, and then we came down. Obviously, that's COVID that pulled that down. Look where we are today, people. And climbing, going in. We have doubled, not almost double, but close to about 9% more in the last 9 years. If you go from 2015 to now, and if you go from 2023 to 24, look at those numbers. 466 to 616. You know why? Because we are performing. When you go to Champions League and we're getting about 90-something million from Champions League versus what Spurs or Man U may be getting 20-something million from Europa League. When you finish second in the Premier League, when your jersey and commercial sales are improving, when you're on TV more, when your fan base globally is grown, so they're buying more jerseys, that's what sustainability does for you. It's continuous. You're smart with your money. You invest smartly, and you're seeing the revenue generated. It's all about revenue generation because everything that you spend is based on your revenues, which is salaries. You can be pretty much 70%. So if your top number goes up, which is the revenue, you can spend 70% of that number on salaries.
Can I ask a question of you then? Based on your view, and as I mentioned, we kind of met at a point where the sustainability model was the most prevalent factor of the Arsenal.
Right.
Do you still believe that the model has been has worked for the Arsenal as opposed to Arsenal, the football club, LLC, or whatever it is?
Well, you see, here's the question. It's an interesting question. It's a good question, but it's not mutually exclusive. They're one and the same. So I think the reason we haven't gotten on the top because we haven't bought a striker. It wasn't the model that didn't buy the striker. It's the people who are the Edu and Arteta make a decision to go buy Havertz for 68 million, to go buy California for 40-something million, which is over 100 million. That could have bought me a premier striker. Isak, and by the way, Tony, I did do some research. Osimhen is not asking for £500,000 a week. He's making, I think, 12 million a year. Havertz make more than that. So this thing people thought maybe they don't want him because they don't think he's good enough or he doesn't fit. But we could have gotten a striker for that number. We didn't. Also, the reason why we got some more money is because they got smart and borrowed some money. But like Abramovich did, it wasn't saying borrowing with some huge interest rate, right? They got some money, low rate, invest in the club. Josh Kroenke took over from his father, and he took a little more risk than his father did, but prudent risk. Because when you take more risk, what's happening is the valuation goes up. So I may not be able to pull any money at the club, like you see with Man U, where they pull money out, they trade 3 million dividends. But if my valuation goes from 3 billion to 4 billion, I've made $1 billion. It's on paper, but I made $1 billion. I think that's how Josh is thinking. And so when they invest in the team, I put in 700 mil, but I go up by 2 billion, I've made my money back. If I sell it, I get capital gains, I pay some capital gains. I still, on a net basis, make much more than 700 million. And frankly, the way we are now, if we sell a Gabriel, a Saliba, a Saka, Odegaard, we're not getting less than 70 million for any of those players. So the valuation of the team, I think the last time I checked, was maybe second or third amongst all teams globally when you value the team, right? Maybe Barca has now improved because Barca has been doing this year, but the team is probably valued about $1 billion in terms of just the players on the field versus how you just value the club holistically. So yeah, I think sustainability works for any business. And when you start just spending like Man U does, you waste money. Because think about it. I gave Rashford 340. I gave Sancho 340. I am screwed. Because nobody's going to be able to take them, given their salary. It's not their purchasing price, which is restricting them being able to move. It's the fact that they can't pay their wages. Right? They can't pay Sancho. You can't pay Sancho wages. Chelsea ain't going to pay the 340. Villa can't afford 345 for Rashford or 350, whatever he makes. So that's part of the problem. Now, here's the question for you. Who stays and who goes? I have my list. I'll hear you first. I have a list. I've made my list. I'm going to post my list. Think about the team. You can go to all goalkeeper, defenders, midfielders, forwards. Who stays, who goes? I have my list, and I'll put up my list when you're done.
All right. So I'll go through off the top of my head. So this is off the dome. The substitute goalkeeper, Neto.
Yes.
I mean, the question is...
So you're saying we need a goalkeeper. Right away, we need a goalkeeper. Let me write this down, what we need. So if you have one goalkeeper, we need a goalkeeper.
For me, you have to have a good backup goalkeeper. You have to. Because, you're always one injury away from, having somebody between the sticks who you just don't want there. And we've seen how disastrous that have been for Tottenham with Vicario, Man United with Onana, Chelsea with
Sanchez.
Sanchez. Yeah. So the keeper
by the way, as one of those people, as you know, pushing to get rid of Ramsdale because he was too error prone.
Yeah.
If I was praising him so great, I had no problem with that making the change. But keep going.
Yeah. So then we move into the back four. Clearly, Tomiyasu has injury issues, which I think mean that we have to somehow get past his injury to the point where we can actually get any money for him.
So you're saying Tommy needs to go?
Fit. Sorry?
You're saying Tommy should go, or you want to keep him?
I think we have to. I think we have to move on from injury-prone players, and he's one of those.
Could have said the same thing about Partey, but keep going.
Yeah, no, I don't think Partey and Tomiyasu can be talked about in the same breath.
No. What I mean is that Partey was injured for 2 seasons, and people are getting frustrated, right?
Yeah,
but keep going.
But what Tomiyasu brings to the team is not even close to what Thomas Partey brings to the team.
Yes, you and I agree on that one.
So Tomiyasu for sure. Obviously, Kieran Tierney, to all intents and purposes, already a free agent, and will leave in the summer for his boyhood team Celtic, which I'm happy for him because to me he's a player who's never really let the team down. He's a consummate professional, as they like to say, and he's always been available. He hasn't always been available. I know he had a time when he was in Spain where he is injured for extensive periods, but he has been available for quite a while this season, and he's never really put a foot wrong when asked to come in and do a job. And he's a defender first. So I think there's money to be made from Kieran Tierney. But obviously, the fact that he's a free agent means you won't get any money. So I kind of just write that off. That's a write-off.
I think we made a mistake on that one, but keep going. I think we made a mistake. We should have sold him at some point.
The remaining back four, which is Miles Lewis, Skelly, Jurriën Timber, Calafiori, Saliba, and Gabriel Magalhaes, I'm more than happy with. I think that is undoubtedly one of the strongest back fours in world football. And
did you mention Ben White?
Sorry, I did. You're right. I think Ben White is more than serviceable, and for that reason, I think it's important that you keep a player like him if you can.
Okay. So you have goalkeeper Tommy Tierney so far. Okay.
Yeah. Calafiori, I think again.
Go ahead.
I like Calafiori. I think he's definitely one to keep. I like his intensity. I think just as a pure out defender, I know you think he's very rash and he's, sometimes overly physical, but I actually think there's a dog in him that the team needs. There are games where I think he's better suited to playing against certain opposition than a Miles Lewis Skelly, who perhaps is a slightly better footballer, but maybe doesn't have the bite and intensity that Calafiori brings. So for that reason, Calafiori for me is one of those components that I think we keep. Then obviously we move on to the midfield, and the most important player for me.
Before you go to midfield,
yeah,
there's a possibility we lose Gabriel. If you remember last year, Gabriel didn't play the first 3 games because of Saudi Arabia interests, and I think Arteta was trying to punish him. They're going to come back in this year, I think. So we'll see. But that's one thing we want to keep him, obviously, but we may lose him actually if he pushes to leave. So
I mean, the question is, if enough money comes in for Gabriel, do you sell? I'm taking the money. I'm being honest.
No, I'm not taking any money.
I think we have more than enough cover. I think he's a great piece. His ability to score goals at the upper end of the pitch. I do think that we would survive without Gabriel. I do think Kivior's doing a good job. He's no Gabriel. Let's be perfectly honest there. But if this is one of those, what would you do if somebody came with 200 million for Saka? Well, I'm taking the money because I know I can find a right winger of an ilk that saves the team a lot of money, and I can reinvest that money somewhere else that makes the team even more dynamic.
Yeah, if I have a chance between selling Gabriel or Saka, this is going to sound like heresy. I'm selling Saka. I'm taking the money to go buy Mboma from Brentford, for example.
Yeah.
Give me the same production.
Yeah.
Gabriel, to me, if you notice, Tony, we struggle now on set pieces defensively because Gabriel is a set piece master, both offensively and defensively.
Yeah.
Right? Bullies people, run over people, Saliba is not good in the air, heading the ball. Gabriel puts his body on the line, and Saliba has made some unconscionable mistakes of late, which I never see when he's playing with Gabriel. Don't ask me why. If it's just by chance or how it's happened, but some of the mistakes he's made recently, you're just like, is it a partner? Why is he making those mistakes? When Gabriel is there, I think his motivation, his vigor, his passion, the way he approached the game, the way he bullies forwards, make it easier to play defense for Saliba. Go ahead.
Midfield. Yeah. So then we go to the midfield. And for me, of course, you and I have been in agreement on this for the last 3 years. Thomas Partey is a Rolls Royce in the middle of the park. His ball handling skills, his press resistance, his ability to shield the back four. There is very few players in world football capable of doing what he does. And I'm quite excited at the idea of having Martin Zubimendi come to the Arsenal as a potential 6, just to see what the alternate looks like. I'm not so certain it improves the team, but I do think variety is the spice of life. And in this situation, this could be a great move by Arsenal. I'm encouraged by his statistics.
Here's my one point on that. If you want to impress me, get the striker first. Get your need first, and then your want second. Don't get your one first, and you need second. You need two strikers, not one, but keep going. You need two strikers. You don't need one. Don't get your one first. Zubimendi is a one. Rice can play the 6. Partey is a Rolls Royce 6, as you and I have talked about ad nauseum.
Yeah.
Zubimendi, Liverpool won him last year, so I assume he's a good player. But get your need first, then get your one. But go ahead.
Yeah. So then I look at an inverted fullback, Zinchenko. And with the emergence of Miles Lewis-Skelly, I think now is the right time to take advantage of his position and say, look, we've done well. We thank you for your service, but we're going to move on. We think we've got the inverted left back of the future, and as a result, we don't need your services any longer. And we take as much as we can get for Zinchenko. So I think that's one that I'm definitely expecting us to make some money from. That must mean I must also address other players of a similar ilk, because we have Sammy Lokonga, who's been out on loan. We also have Nuno Tavares, who's been out on loan. And I do honestly believe both of those players make money for Arsenal somehow. Even if it's 5 million, 10 million each, I still believe both those players make Arsenal some money. And we can't go away and not make some money out of those two players. Another player who's out that might be able to make some money, and I don't see coming back, is Fabio Vieira. I see him as no longer applicable to the team, and therefore moves must be made to take him out of the team and see what you can get for his services elsewhere. And I'm pretty certain there's probably a raft of teams that are coming into the Premier League who could probably do with a Fabio Vieira. We talked about Vieira versus Emil Smith-Rowe at the time when we lost them both, and it was a case of, to me, we took 2 out and we didn't get anyone in, and it didn't make any sense that we didn't have one of the two of them just as a backup across the middle of the pitch. I do think that was poor business by Arsenal. And so with that, I do feel that there's money to be made from Fabio Vieira. Okay. Then we have another name that that's gone out on loan, and that is Marquinhos, the forgotten man. Marquinhos is in Brazil.
I forgot about Marquinhos. I'll admit I forgot about Marquinhos.
Yeah. So he is in Brazil. He is plying his trade in the Seleção. Yeah, as far as anything that I've read up, he's not really hitting any heights back in Brazil. I thought he was a tidy player. He did at times substitute for Bukayo Saka. I didn't think he was terrible. And I was hoping that, a run back in home country Brazil might reignite a flame in his love for football, and we might see a new reinvigorated Marquinhos at some point in time. That doesn't look to have happened, and therefore my decision will be sell as quickly as you can, as easily as you can, for whatever money you can. If it's 3 million, 4 million,
you may have to pay to get him off the books.
you might have to, but I do think you stop mollycoddling to these players who are not delivering, because ultimately, if you come to Arsenal, there's an expectation. Yeah, you have to expect that. Look, if you play for Real Madrid, and you go to another club, the only thing people are looking at is he played for Real Madrid. He carries an infinite value just based on the fact that he was a Real Madrid player. I think the one that goes into that category right now is Rodrigo. There's talk about him leaving Real Madrid. And the money that they're talking is only based on the fact that you played for Real Madrid. Because there's nothing in your game that shows me that you're worth anywhere near the money that they're talking about. But because you play for Real Madrid, you have X amount of zeros added to your monetary value. And I believe that should be the same with any player that plays for Arsenal.
True. Totally agree.
So that's Marquinhos. Then we go to the front four.
Okay.
No, we ain't finished, have we? We still got Declan Rice and
You still
Mikel
got
Merino.
Rice and
Odegaard. Okay,
Yep.
so Merino to me has shown that he's more than a capable asset to this team, and right now he's probably one of the biggest assets to the team because he's a player who can play across midfield and even the front three. He's shown his ability to score goals. I think there is something about him physically that needs to change. I mean, he's not the fastest. I mean, you can't turn a player like Mikel Merino from where he is into a speed demon. He's never going to be that. He's like Kai Havertz. He has a physical capability that you can't change. You know, we all know if Kai Havertz could run faster by an extra couple of meters per.
Give him Martinelli speed.
Yeah. We'd have an unbelievable talent in our books.
Yep.
Merino to me is kind of like that in that, you know, I look at what he's doing and I just think to myself, he's a baller. He strikes the ball beautifully. He has a knack for seeing where he needs to be to get a goal. He can also assist. You know, he gets a lot of unheralded, you know, knock-on assists. So I definitely keep Mikel Merino. I also value him very highly. And I guess it falls into that category of if stupid money fell at our feet for Mikel Merino, would I take it? Hell yeah.
It'd have to be very stupid money.
It would have to be stupid money.
Meaning, I don't think anybody's going to pay ridiculous money for him, unless it's Saudi, actually. Right?
I mean,
he's a
let's
good
be
player,
honest.
but
if
he's
somebody
not,
wants a goal-scoring midfielder in world football, let's think about this. In world football, a goal-scoring midfielder, is there anyone better on the planet right now than Mikel Merino?
A goal-scoring midfielder, maybe Bellingham. It's probably a few. But you're talking about playing the 8, not the 10, right? Probably playing the 8. Not a lot of 8s who are prolific goal scorers, if you think about it.
Yeah.
You don't have that Barca, you don't have that Madrid in the 8. I'm just thinking about all the 8s that I know of.
I mean, the people I think of immediately are like, I think immediately like Bruno Guimaraes, I think of McAllister at Liverpool. They're not scoring goals like this.
Yeah, but they're not prolific. They score, but they're not prolific.
They score, but they're not like this guy.
Yeah.
And for that reason, based on what he's been able to show for Arsenal, I think if you got somebody looking for somebody to come into the team and help drive your midfield, but not only that, but score you goals as well. Yeah, because there was a time when goal-scoring midfielders were a norm. Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, Paul Scholes, you know, that era of footballer. We've seen.
Yeah, but I think that era too, we're much more lax about how we go forward and come back, right? We're very programmatic now. Either I play a low block, mid block, or high press. So instead of Gerrard day, and Lampard day, you have much more leeway in terms of how you go up and down the pitch. Now is very structured, probably too structured, frankly.
Yeah. So that's why for me, Merino, if I look at Merino right now as being one of the shining lights in the Arsenal squad, and if silly money comes in, as I said, if a team really, really looks at world football and says, I want a goal-scoring midfielder, and they're willing to pay the money, I say take him.
Okay.
But I'd be hurt by the loss because I think I genuinely like the player.
No, he's worked well. He didn't get a lot of playing time initially, but you know, when we lost the center forward, he went to center forward. Even though, in my view, we should have put Martinelli up there, frankly, versus putting him up there, because I think it'd be a much different outcome. Odegaard would have got much more time on the ball to do stuff. He'd have had much more assists because Martinelli would get behind. And you look at the last game against Liverpool, how he was playing the ball behind the defense, and Martinelli was running onto them or getting close to them. Is a whole different game. But you know what? Merino didn't embarrass himself. He played well and he scored some very important goals, actually. Well-taken goals. So, yeah, good point being made.
Okay, then I move on to the front three. I'll say Saka. I'll just re-say what we said a little bit earlier. I love him. I think he's one of the world's finest strike sort of attacking midfielders currently. However, if the money came in and it was ridiculous money, I would take the money. I think there's more than enough players who could do a good job. You know, I kind of look at, and I still don't understand how we didn't find a place for him. Before Saka, there was a guy called Nicolas Pepe. And I look at the kid's highlights all the time because I really did enjoy watching him play. And I don't know how we managed to not be able to find a place for Nicolas Pepe. I think he could have been, at his best, he could have played in any of 4 or 5 positions in the Arsenal team and have made us a better team.
Even though he had the same speed, if you think about Dembele, for example, right? The build, the skill, maybe not the same quickness. He should have been playing at that level or somewhere close. But Dembele was poor in let's be honest, at Barcelona for a while, right? He's at PSG, different environment. He's a star man. It's different. So, and Pepe didn't get that amount of time and that pampering that you need sometimes to bring the best out of you. So I'm in agreement with you and Pepe. I think Pepe had ability, which wasn't. He went downhill from there, but yeah.
So I kind of feel like we missed the trick there with Pepe. I think
Arsenal ruined Pepe.
If we had invested in, trying to develop him as a player, trying to integrate him more into the team, into the system, he could have been so much more for us.
Well, your coach likes who your coach likes, right? Your coach likes who your coach likes. If he doesn't like you, you're dead. Ask Aubameyang. After you sign a big contract. But anyway, keep going.
Okay. Then I guess the big one is Kai Havertz. The big German. I like the big German. I'm not going to deny it. I like what he brings in terms of his work rate, his two-way play. He's a two-way player. He's everything you want in a modern-day striker. A player who can defend and who can assist you at the other end of the pitch and scores goals. And I truly, honestly believe that had his season not been curtailed at the point he had, he would have scored 20 goals this season. And
you
that would have been...
You said everything you need money in a striker. Is that really true, though? There's one attribute he doesn't have. Well, he has 2 attributes he doesn't have. I think modern striker need to have. I don't think he's the epitome of modern striker. I think he's a very good player with a lot of great attributes, including work ethic, which people don't see because he's of a language style. But quickness to get behind defense doesn't have that. Finisher, deadly finisher, good finisher, not deadly finisher. No right foot, can finish, but not deadly finisher. Isak, a Gokares, a Osimhen, a Sesko doesn't have that. Even Girassi, frankly, who will have his misses, but to me, he's a more complete, right? But he's a very good football. He's a weird footballer in this, Tony, which is he has so much great attributes. Like, I'm not the biggest Havertz fan in a sense. I'm always thinking about the alternative. Control, pass, run his socks off, good holding the ball up. A lot of good skill set that you need as a footballer, period, which sometimes is not evident in some footballers. At the same time, to get behind the defense, to stretch the defense, to run off and create space for others, he doesn't have those attributes, right? Which is something that I think is imperative for a striker nowadays today, especially when football is so structured and everybody is in their little boxes how they play. You need that differentiating quality to really be able to get goals, because goals are imperative in football. And if you look at football, people got all excited about Barcelona against Inter the other day. I wasn't that impressed. I think it was a lack of defense. When you score in 6 and 7 goals in a 2-legged tie, 13 goals in total, what the number was, I think Barcelona defense is horrible, but their offense is exceptional. Now, if they get their defense right, it's a different story. Go ahead, Tony. You were just talking about Havertz.
Yeah, so he's the immediate player that you go, that's where we need the upgrade. And obviously, Arsenal look to be making the moves to try and make that upgrade in that particular part of the pitch where we have missed out on that ability to finish teams off clinically with a clinical striker. Yeah, it's one of those where you kind of have a need and a want, and you can't always have what you need, but you can need what you want.
You've made your want become need. So I think about it. Your want has become a need. Havertz was not a need, but Arteta made him a need when he got him. Because he got him at the expense of a striker. He's comfortable in Jesus, who is a hit and miss.
Yeah,
But
I'm
anyway.
going to assume that Arsenal are going to move on and get themselves a really high-class striker in the summer. Which then begs the question: what do you do
don't talk
with
about
Kai
incomings
Havertz?
yet. We'll talk about incomings. We'll talk about possible incomings. We'll get to possible incomings. Let's go with who we have now. So you got Havertz. You have Trossard left. You have Martinelli left. You have Nwaneri left. Who else? I think you have. Talk about Odegaard yet? Maybe the four. Yeah. Odegaard, Nwaneri, Martinelli, and Trossard.
So Odegaard, just on the basis of we know what he can do, we've seen what he's been like in years gone by. I think we have to give him another year's grace on the hope that he finds form with a new striker. I think it's going to be a very important part of the work that the coach has to do, specifically Arteta, to try to get the best out of that particular player. Because we know on his day he's a very good player and he can do so much for the team, but he needs to find a way to either reinvent the way he plays or create a system whereby he has to have less touches and effectively become more efficient in the final third, because Arsenal will consistently face low blocks. And with low blocks, you need somebody to unpick those low blocks. And that is what Martin Odegaard's job is.
Yeah.
How Arteta does that, I'm not really sure, because it is a coach's job to coach in to their system of play. Okay, so we're going to work on this new technique. And this new technique is going to involve me playing the ball to the 10's feet, him turning on a dime and delivering something to an on-running striker or something like similar to that. So in that respect, Arteta has his work cut out in order to try and facilitate something along those lines. Whether he does or not will potentially show the coaching abilities of that player. And to be honest, I'm not really sure I've ever seen that before. I mean, you might be able to sort of give me some clues as to how a coach has done that before with a player. Turned them from being, struggling in the middle of a park and just made a slight tweak. And all of a sudden that player becomes far more penetrative, I guess.
I think there are a couple of things with Odegaard. One is, if you have Zubimendi, maybe play a double pivot and he gets to play across the front line, because right now we are right side dominant. I've never seen this before. 43% of our plays come from the right side of the field. So if you look across the field in terms of middle, right, and left, most teams is 30, 30, 30 something, right? We're 43% right side, which means I only have 57% for the other two sides of the field. So that means Martinelli getting starved on the left side, right? If you go to the middle, because we're playing Saka, Ben White, Timber, Odegaard all the time, and Saliba, who's a ball playing, versus Gabriel, who goes over the top. So you're struggling then. He's not playing across like a normal 10. He's playing like not even 10 and a half. I don't know what he plays in a sense. It's not the normal 10, 9 and a half, 8 is not what he's playing. He's on Saka most times, and that room is not there. If you play a double pivot, he plays across the front line. It's a whole different construct. Then he has chance to be much more manipulative in terms of how he plays. Secondly, he needs to touch the ball left. You don't have to take the ball and spin around. You're not a gig, right? Make your touches more effective and more efficient. Versus I got to touch the ball. Sometimes he gets frustrated when he's not getting the ball. And he touches the ball a lot. He comes back in his defense, get the ball and try to make pass and make turnovers, which is not needed, right? Third, I need a center forward like a Martinelli who's moving, stretching the defense. I play the ball in that space, you go get it. I can't always play the ball to your feet. Saka is not the quickest. So Saka gets behind the defense once or twice every 3 or 4 games. If I have a forward who can run off a defense and Odegaard is giving them the ball because his passing is accurate, it's a whole different story. Because do you know what does? The defense have to drop off more. Odegaard get more space to play. It's a different ball game. So I think how you build your team informs how he plays sometimes, but he also have to change some of his game to allow him to be more effective in his role. Because he always, but look, when you're a ball handler, it's like a point guard. I want to touch the ball 24/7, right? If I'm not touching the ball every time we have possession, I feel like I'm out of the game. He has to learn to play without the ball sometime, which he doesn't do. But the year before last, he was brilliant. This year, it's been a struggle. And I've thought sometimes he should be benched and incentivized versus being enabled. If you're always playing, you're not worrying about your game, then you're always going to play how you play. If I feel under pressure from Nwaneri, I may have to change my game.
Yeah, and that's simply where I was going to go next. Was he might need to start looking at how he needs to change the game in trying to change that percentage of field tilt. You know, the left 10 isn't doing what the right 10 is doing. And as a result, can you get more production from your left 10?
Or do you need to spread it out more so your left 10 gets more ball? Because Rice penetrates, right? Nowadays, Rice is carrying the ball some more. He's playing more of an 8, but he's carrying the ball more, which Odegaard doesn't really do per se. He doesn't carry it. He touches it a lot. He spins around. He plays a little 1-2. Rice will take it like he did a couple of times more recently from the 6, and he's carrying it when Partey wasn't playing, or on the 8 he's carrying it, which then forces the defense to collapse on you, which then create more space. Because when you get by your man, which Partey does, which most times don't happen, somebody has got to cover for that play you just beat. Odegaard doesn't go by people. He doesn't go by people like that, which is interesting given his skill set.
I think the Rice role will make a massive difference next year. I think he's finding his feet. Rice is cooking at the moment, and I think he's doing a very good job.
Yes, Rice has improved. As you and I have talked about with Rice, I wasn't really enthused about how he was playing. But as the season progressed, his skill sets become much more, and he didn't hurt himself by scoring those 2 screamers. That's for damn sure. Those screamers, people change their mind on him in a lot of different ways, actually.
Yeah. So I think that we will persist with that one. I mean, here's an interesting question for you, Cranky. Would you take Granit Xhaka back at left 10?
Hey, Kishan, hold up. Go ahead, Tony.
Will you take Granit Xhaka back at left 10 over anybody? I know how much you really appreciate Granit Xhaka.
Maybe not over Rice, but I would take him back at left 10. I think he was a brilliant. Hey, look, now you realize how good a left 10 he was, or 8 he was. He was a brilliant 8. Those passes to spray, we don't get those passes anymore, across the field, into the forward. We don't get those spray passes anymore. People don't realize that. Apollo didn't like him. I don't have a problem. He didn't tell me to go do what, so I don't have a problem with it. I was in the stadium. But I think those spray passes he made, look, he had the most touches last year in football, right? Playing the 6 for Leverkusen. Most touches, period, in football, right? Playing brilliant football. He was underrated. He didn't play well his first few years with us, but he was underrated. When Tony finishes going through Kishan, you can say what you have to say. Go ahead, Tony. We have a caller, Tony, but keep going. Finish off first, and then we'll take the call. Okay,
so that just leaves us with Gabriel Martinelli and Trossard. Trossard, I've seen more than enough of him live this year, where I was like, literally, what is this guy doing on our pitch? Probably one of the most frustrating footballers I've ever seen. For somebody who has as much talent as he has, he's a frustrating footballer to watch.
Yeah.
We know he can win you a game. We know that he can strike a great ball. But when he starts a game of football, you kind of just know I'm not going to be anywhere near as threatening with him on the left as I am with Gabriel Martinelli on the left. But having said that, Martinelli, doesn't pick his head up, runs into blind holes, has terrible crossing ability, bad decision making when trying to make a cross. Final ball is definitely to be wanted. So there is definitely room for improvement across the left side of the pitch. You know, and again, much like we've kind of alluded to with Bukayo Saka, there are plenty of players in world football you could look at could do a job on that left side. I mean, I think I was thinking about this the other day. The gold standard in left-sided football play is Rafinha. Imagine if we had Rafinha when we had the chance to get him.
We tried to get him from Leeds. If
we had got him, imagine what we would have on our hands right now.
And he was playing on the right for Leeds, by the way. He was playing on the right for Leeds, not the left. Right? He's on the right. He's on the left because Yamal is playing on the left. On the right, sorry.
But clearly he's so good. He's so good. He could play either side and still be effective. And what you're looking for right now is you're saying to yourself, if you want to improve this team, you're looking for Rafinha 2.0 to come in and just make a difference on that left-hand side. And I honestly believe you can find it. I think there are more than enough left-sided wingers who offer you much better upside than Trossard and Martinelli.
Can't argue that one.
So I'm definitely of the volition that you sell at least one of those two players, and you go out and you get yourself, you know, a Rafael Leao, a Nico Williams, or another left-sided bomber.
Well, it's my understanding that Trossard had an offer from Saudi before they may come back in for him. He's probably reluctant to sign. Because you know, one time he didn't celebrate a goal because he wasn't starting. God help us. So that's Trossard, though. I always believe he's better than he really is. But he's a good goal scorer. But he's not the answer. We have a caller. Let me bring this caller in, Tony. But good go, Tony. I'll put up my list when you're done. Kishan, good evening. How are you doing?
Good evening. Tony's a very smart Arsenal fan. But let me say this, right? You disappear like Porsche Simpson.
Okay.
Not seen in the public eye.
All right, let me turn him up because he's a Man U fan, by the way. He's a Man United fan. And Man United fan cannot come on my channel and tell me anything about football. Nothing.
Listen.
Let me talk about nothing about football. Nothing. In fact, Man U.
It's the same man who told me that Mazraoui was the next best thing. I think I remember it. I think I remember you coming on and trying to tell us about how Mazraoui was going to be.
Yeah.
There are a lot of United fans. My name makes me up cranky. But listen, my intro, where I say every now and then you're DJing or cranky, right?
Yes.
I decided, so I'm going to the studio recently. I'll make a little song for Arsenal.
Okay.
So this is it. Look. Second again, ole ole. Second again. Second again, ole ole.
Suppose we come third. Because we may not come second. If we don't beat Newcastle this weekend, we don't come second.
You see, like how them 3-peat in basketball, you guys are going to second peat 3 times in a row.
Okay. All right.
But listen.
Wait. One question before you go further. One question. What has Man U position been finishing for the last 3 years? Just let me know.
Well, 4 finals in the last 3 seasons, 2 trophies. Could be 3 from the 21st of this month.
And every year you're going to fire your coach because you're doing so wonderful. I don't understand. You tell me what trophies you're winning, but you're firing your coaches. You just told me you fire Ten Hag, he won 2 trophies. You want to fire Amorim. So if your coach had finished second in the Premier League, would you have been thinking about firing him? I'm just saying.
Well, listen, that's the call Arteta the bridesmaid, you know. So,
but don't answer my question. Don't make a statement without answer my question. If your coach finished second 3 years in a row, would you have fired him? 3 years in a row, would you have fired him?
In terms of Ten Hag, the money that we had invested, we expected better, especially when he kind of got majority of his players. In terms of Amorim, I think we have to give him a transfer window. But he said some very concerning things, I think today or yesterday, about maybe not being the guy to take the club forward because of the culture.
You know, he's won 6 of 19 games, right?
Yeah. But let me tell you.
Is he Ipswich or is he this Man U? Is this Ipswich or Man U? What are we talking about? The man, what you talking about a coach? If we had a coach who win 6 of 19, we'd fire him. No. Arsenal would have fired a coach who win 6 of 19. We'd have fired him.
Let me tell you this before I move to the Arsenal thing, right? I think Amorim kind of got an easy let off to an extent for some reason. And you know, when he just came in, right? And I think the true measure of a good coach is how putting different things in place with what you have at your disposal. You know what I'm saying? And this notion in football where a coach has to kind of have like his specific plus to have some form of success, I think it's absolute base. You know what I'm saying? And if it was at the expense of United getting relegated, right? Would people look at me and tell me, oh, he doesn't have the plus for a system? That's absolutely rubbish. You know what I'm saying? And for a period of time in the beginning when he just came in, I was like, you know, he should be trying to play a team or play a system that benefits the players and their strong points, you know. Despite them not maybe being good enough, they still have certain strong points that you need to exploit. And I don't feel like he did that this season, right? But fair enough, he wants his players, he wants to persist with the system. Fair.
So let me say this to you. Here's what's interesting, Tony. Anthony, Sancho, Rashford, all gone to better teams, all have started quite a bit of games, all have produced in some respects. Sancho's falling off somewhat. And your people that you have not producing, you have, what's his name? Haaland, who playing center forward, who have no idea where the goal sits. So is it the coach that's really that good, or is he not that good? Because Rashford went to Villa, start over, what's his name, in Champions League semi-final, or quarterfinal. Yeah. Start over him in the quarterfinal, right? Start over my boy up front. So that means Rashford is doing something right. And the coach say they don't want him because he's a cancer. Yeah, but no, he don't want Sancho as a cancer. He don't want Anthony their cancers. And they go to other teams and they start. Anthony now is a big star in Spain. Big in Spain for Bet. What is that, Betis? Big star in Spain.
We cannot do this right now because you have short term memory. You have a player that at the club, he wasn't training properly. He wasn't really going with what the manager was about. You know.
How do you know that? Except with the manager feeding you guys, feeding you nonsense.
No.
Feeding you nonsense. Feeding you talk about no. Manager comes out and beating Rashford in public. Nobody does that.
No,
stay behind closed door with that nonsense.
Jose Mourinho days, right?
Yeah.
You're hypocritical because you just told us a manager, a good coach, should be able to work with what he's got and work.
No, that's true. But I'm saying, like, even if that was the case, right, it doesn't mean that a player will want to join with the philosophy or whatever the case is, or, you know, listen to the manager. And Rashford, even before Amorim, he has been having his problems, right? And even before Amorim, he did an interview stating that he might want a fresh start. That was before Ruben Amorim. That was under tenure last season.
Kishan, I'm gonna stop you there. You know the difference between your coach and my coach? My coach get rid of Aubameyang, you know, said nothing in public. Is a press push up all the story and cover them narrative. He just get rid of people like crazy. Ozil, Aubameyang, he's not in public beating them. He's just saying, you know what, you don't fit in my team, you gotta go. He's not out in public talking about, or they don't come to training, they're not training right, they're not doing this. The press may push the language and he has to answer some question. He's not pushing that thing. Like Ten Hag did with Sancho or Rashford was done with Amorim. That's not what my coach does. Right?
Yeah, fair enough. And I think with United, they have to be a bit better in terms of, like, if you kind of give the media ammunition to an extent, you know what I'm saying? Where other coaches kind of shut down the media in some respect, they don't have to answer certain questions, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And in that sense, you're not giving them ammunition to kind of write papers or even, you know, the English media is so powerful that when you give them something, they turn it into something that it's really not, you know what I'm saying? And that can even fracture the club to an extent in terms of the fan base and how they view the situation and taking the side of a player versus a manager, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, earlier in the show, Tony made a great point, you know, Cranky. I think the left-hand side of Arsenal seems...
I thought Tony was making all great points during his whole discussion. Yeah, that's why I didn't interrupt him, but keep going.
But it's that left-hand side issue dating back to when Arsenal first found themselves in the title race back in 21, 22 or around that time.
Probably more Arsenal, 22, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, they've always attacked down that right-hand side. Ben White, Martin Odegaard, and Bukayo Saka, right?
Yeah.
And I think even the Odegaard point as well in terms of this fourth season, I think it comes down to the fact that Saka was injured for part of this season and Ben White for a large part of this season as well. I think the strong point of Arsenal is definitely on that right-hand side, the intricacy, you know, the link-up play, the 1-2 between Martin Odegaard and Bukayo Saka getting in behind. I think that would have aided Martin Odegaard, right? But with that aspect of the team not being available this season, I think the new role that Martin Odegaard had, the new responsibility that he would have found himself in terms of being that creative player, like a true number 10. I don't think he's that type of player. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he's a KDB. I don't think he's a Bruno Fernandes. I don't think he's those type of number 10s where he has to take most of the responsibility of the football being that creative. I think it's more link up play in those half spaces, 1-2 between Bukayo Saka and other players as well. Those passes around the corner. It's quite different than a number 10 that bears the full responsibility of being creative for the team.
De Bruyne is not a 10. Why do people think De Bruyne is a 10? De Bruyne playing in a 3 across midfield. De Bruyne didn't always play. De Bruyne would play 10 in certain games, but he plays across with Silva and with Rodri. He doesn't play in the 10 like he's not in the hole in the 10. People always say De Bruyne's a 10 and I laugh. He's not a true 10.
Let me bring something quickly into the conversation. How about Eberechi Eze at your left 10?
Go ahead. I'll answer it. Go ahead, Kishan.
For United or
for Arsenal?
Not for United. You guys are not good. You said about a good football team. So for Arsenal,
I mean, I think the main concern. I think Eze is a brilliant player, but I think the main concern for any Arsenal fan would be the injury, the injury history of Eze.
He's had some injuries, but it's not been terrible. It's not like a Partey type injury or Tommy Yosa type injury. He's had injuries, but it hasn't been. He's in and out. He's in and out. That's true. It's very true. He's in and out, but he's not in and out for extended periods. Actually, here's my concern about Eze. In contemporary football, you got to play both ways. Eze take up a lot of time on the defensive end. I watch Eze for Crystal Palace. I watch like Crystal Palace. Eze is not always running back and putting a foot in. Eze is brilliant going forward. He's very skillful. What Eze give you is that differentiating factor, which is he can go by people, which then create defensive mismatches when he goes by people. Two-footed, can score goals, but defensively, that you need from a Marino, from a Rice, that we have with Xhaka, which is what Arteta values. I think that Arteta doesn't pursue him. I think that's why he has pursued him.
In terms of a question, right? Has Arteta reached his limit with Arsenal? I think it's a very tricky thing in terms of the last thing you want to do is fire Arteta and then you get a manager that you maybe go 5 or 10 steps back to where you are now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think with Mikel Arteta being young and when he came into the job, he was not going to say a co-man to Pep. He was an assistant to Pep, right? I think being inexperienced coming into the job, he would have made mistakes along the line, right? And when he made mistakes, you correct them, right? And obviously, the issue with Arsenal, not winning a trophy in the last 5 years or so, it wouldn't solely be on Mikel Arteta. It's a team at the end of the day in terms of what was the guy that was there before the footballing director? What's his name? The Brazilian guy, Edu. He would have been there. Some responsibility would have been on him as well. In terms of obviously in-game changes, the tactical side of the game, that will be more on Mikel Arteta. And I think where he has failed as to why people would question him right now is down to the fact that he didn't sign a striker really and truly after getting rid of Lacazette and Aubameyang, right? In terms of the left-hand side, they've made attempts to sign Rafinha and even the guy that went to Chelsea, what's his name? Mikel Merino. No, not Mikel Merino. Mudryk. And I feel as if Mudryk would have been a better player at Arsenal compared to what he's at Chelsea.
Let me stop right there. You were doing so well. Back up. You were doing so well. You sounded articulate. You make sense, and then you go mention Mudryk.
No, listen.
Mudryk.
I said, I feel as if he would have been a better player at Arsenal than what he's at Chelsea because when Arsenal would have been in for Mudryk, Chelsea just came out of nowhere and like, oh, let's get Mudryk. And I feel as if Mikel Arteta and his team would have definitely.
Mudryk is Martinelli on steroids, and that's hard to do. He's Martinelli on steroids.
Tony,
poor decision making. Go ahead, Tony. Tony, your view on this Mudryk suggestion. No.
I'm not having Mudryk at all.
We missed but we got so lucky, Tony, that Chelsea was just greedy, covetous, as them say in Jamaica in the Bible, covetous, greedy, just chasing other people's targets. And thank you, Chelsea, for being idiots. Thank you for being idiots. We welcome it.
All right, but fair enough, I'll give you that one. But in terms of that left hand side I'm talking about, right, and the lack of a striker, I know that he would have brought in Gabriel Jesus, but I feel that's the main problem as well with Mikel Arteta, where he's bringing players into the first team as starters who were kind of subpar at the team that they were once at, No,
I just no. Here's my view on that. You have to take steps before you can run. Zinchenko and Jesus want to come to Arsenal play with Arteta. They were a stopgap to get to the ultimate destination. You couldn't just go get the best players because we were in a position to go get the best players. They were very good players. They were winners. We're bringing in winners to come in. They came in. They played well enough. You have 1 more minute, my son, before I have to move on. What's your closing points?
Yeah, in terms of Zinchenko and those guys, fair enough. I just think that moving forward, if Arsenal want to win the title, I think the mentality is there. I think in the last 2 seasons we would have seen that, especially against the top 6 teams. Against low block this season, obviously you guys would have struggled. But listen, if Martin Odegaard returns to the Martin Odegaard of old, you're getting a striker like a Goikarez or Victor Osimhen that can score 20-something goals in the Premier. I think you're there about in terms of winning the trophy. You know, then again, you don't want to say there about, but we cannot assure anything for the future because we can't predict the future. You know what I'm saying? But I think it just has to be one more season for Arteta, and then if no major trophy, then you guys just have to move on, you know?
All right, so thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So that was Kishan 433. A Man U fan. I thought Man U fans were in hiding until like next year, even though they're in the finals. I'd be walking with a mask on, hat on my head. I would not be walking around the world showing my face, finishing 16, 17 in the league. Are you? This is Man U. They're one of the richest clubs. Well, was one of the richest clubs in the world. That's what happened to Tony. We don't have sustainability. They basically are almost bankrupt, right, Christ? Like, and they're a public company. They ain't got no money. They can't go buy people like how they used to buy people. They've overpaid. They paid their goalkeeper $400,000 a year. £400,000 a year. A week they were paying him before he left. What's his name from Spain? Madness. But Tony, here was my list, Tony. Here's my list.
Okay.
If you can see it. So let me see if I can bring this up a bit more. So you can see the list here of players, right? I made up this list of players. And who to keep and who to sell and who is leaving. Can you guys see the list? Can you see the list?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, I brought it up.
If you see the list, we have, obviously, we're going to keep Raya because we ain't get rid of the one of the best goalkeepers in Premier League. He's not Onana. It's basically what you basically said. Saliba, Raya, Gabriel. We're going to keep Kiwior. We were thinking about selling him, but he's done so well as a substitute coming in. But Gabriel, we're going to keep Kiwior. We're keeping Ben White. We're keeping Luis Kelly. I'm keeping Tomiyasu because I've learned from my Partey situation, which is Tomiyasu is a brilliant defender. Better defender than Ben White. Maybe not better going forward, but better defender than Ben White. When Tomiyasu was with us, he played right back, left back, like Timber does, and shut down people. You know, in football, you call a shutdown corner. Timber and Tomiyasu are shut down. We have Timber at left back and Tomiyasu at right back. We're shutting down wingers. That 4 defender, you don't need all your midfielders to be coming back all the time. They're shut down. But anyway, he's been injury prone from Japan. He's still injury prone. He's in Italy. He's still injury prone. Let's hope he can fix those problems. He took a year off. Calafiori, you know I'm not as sold as Calafiori as you are. I think he's overly aggressive. I think he has ability. But he needs to calm down because he's playing the best league in the world. And you get exposed when you go rush in where, you know, angels fear to tread, frankly. So he needs to calm down. If you go to midfielders,
I think if you calm Calafiori down, you lose some of his game. I think that aggression is parcel of what makes him effective as a defender.
You're right, but you got to have what I call selective aggression. If you run them all the time, you're going to get beaten.
Yeah, I agree.
So Odegaard, Nwaneri, Rice, Havertz. I have Havertz in midfield as an 8. Partey, Merino. I should have had Saka, Martinelli. I have Trossard as keep, but if money comes in for Trossard, I'm taking it. Right? I'm taking that money. And then we have players leaving. So I have Zinchenko leaving, right? I have Zinchenko leaving. I have Tavares leaving. I have Tierney leaving. I don't know why my list is longer than this. Something is amiss here. I also have, you forgot Jorginho leaving.
Sambi Lakonga.
No, I have all of them. I just don't get. I don't know why my list is not coming up the right way. Wait 1 second.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna put it back on stage. So this is the second part of the list. I miss Marquinhos. I miss Marquinhos, but I have Jesus leaving. I have Reece Nelson leaving. I have Sterling going back to Chelsea. Then I have Zubamende coming in, and then I have Lakanga, Jorginho. They're all leaving already. They're leaving or whatever. So that's the list, right? We are. If you think about incoming, though, let's just think about incoming. What we need. I think we need 2 center forwards and 2 wingers, definitely, and maybe a left back. Because I think Calafiori can deputize as a left back, center back. Actually, he played that in Italy. But he doesn't really come across that way since I've seen him play. He's more traditional left back. I think we should go after Delap, who played at Ipswich, and go after Gokares. Delap has, I think, a 30 million buyout clause. That's peanuts for us. Delap has been very good for me this year. Skillful, quick, physical. He has Gokares type ability, but he's younger and need to be more refined. We go get him and Gyökeres, we're set. It's like you have Alvarez and Haaland for Man City. That's what I'm thinking in terms of our team. Those two center forwards. One is cheaper. Between the two is £100 million between the two. 60 plus million for Gyökeres, 30 million for Delap. We get both of them. He may not come to us because he won't be the first team striker. He won't be the preferred striker. He could go to a West Ham, which wants him, by the way, and Everton wants him. He could go to a Man U probably if they don't go buy somebody else and probably get into that team. We need a winger now. Nico Williams has not had a good year. Him was great at the Euro, has not had a good year. And I'm concerned about that. And he wants £400,000 a week. Not happening. He can't be the highest paid player in the team.
No, he can't be. You're right. Rafael Leao.
But they want £100 million from him. From Milan wants £100 million.
That's money well spent.
He's physical. He's quick. He has all the skill. But then, can I afford a striker and Leao at the same time? I'm already spent 50 million for Zubimendi. 60 million is 100 million. That's 200 million right there, you know.
Yeah.
And I haven't gotten another backup for Saka. I don't have a backup for. You have a backup unless you do this, Tony, which could be creative. You then say, you know what? I don't get Delap. I get Gyökeres. Havertz is my backup along with Martinelli. I have Leo on the left with Martinelli. I have Nwaneri on the right with Saka. Nwaneri also backs up Odegaard, right? You can think about different permutations.
Yeah.
With how we'd balance off. We have our 2 6s, even though Rice can play the 6. We have 2 Merino and Rice as the 8. We have Zubimendi and Partey as the 6. We have Odegaard and Nwaneri in the 10. We need forwards, center forwards, and wingers. And indeed, we need a backup goalkeeper, by the way.
Yeah.
We need a backup goalkeeper badly because Neto is going back and we don't have one. So we didn't answer the question. Would you keep Arteta or would you have him go on the beach?
So after all of what we've said, and I think we've chewed the cud to the absolute base, I'm Arteta in. I like the fact that when we look at the game on a week-by-week basis, I have a team that is capable of beating any top 6 team and is competing at the highest level in all competitions across Europe and domestically. I keep him. Obviously, there are things that we've highlighted tonight, which, we would like to see improvement areas. But the fundamentals are still doing what they need to do, which is getting us into position to win major trophies. And I think he will get us in those positions again with the additional resources should they be made available to him this summer. I think it's exciting times for Arsenal fans to think, what would this team look like with a Gyökeres or a Sesko or a, Osimhen in the place where we wanted them?
Yeah, look, there are a couple of things. One is I think Arteta needs to improve in a number of areas. I love how he has built this team to be sustainable. I love that word. And to compete and to be effective, probably needs to be a bit more efficient. I love the fact that the top 6 can't beat us, apart from Newcastle if they're in the top 6. But, Man City, Liverpool haven't beaten us in God knows how long now, when we go play them and we just, okay, hopefully it's not 5 or 6. That's what we used to say. Now it's, what? I don't fear going to their place to beat them or play them because we can beat them, right?
Yeah,
Newcastle is a bold team. We're going to beat Newcastle.
We went to Liverpool and I'm expecting a drubbing, if I'm being honest, because you kind of think, well, the season's over. These players are now all on the sun lounger mentally. And Liverpool are a team that they can exploit that kind of lapse in concentration. And when you look at the first half, you kind of think we're about to get a whooping of monumental, proportions. And somehow a halftime team talk turns the team around and we end up getting a draw in a place that we're accustomed to holding 4 and 5.
Yeah, it was an amazing game in the context of this, which is we didn't have any Havertz, we don't have any Gabriel, we don't have any Jesus, we don't have any Declan Rice, right? Probably all starters or close to being starters. the first half we were getting bombarded. We were out of sorts. To come out second half and play the way we did was kind of strange. But also the Martinelli center forward thing changed things because all of a sudden the defense was scrambling. All of a sudden Odegaard had more room to maneuver. All of a sudden Odegaard is shooting, for Christ's sake. Odegaard have a shot. Oh my Lord, I haven't seen Odegaard shot in a while. Hitting the post, probably should have scored in the last part of the game. Right? In the first half, we were at the C, and you think, as you're saying, this is going to be 6 today. This is horrible. That's what I thought. It's going to be another Liverpool drubbing, and I got to hear it from Liverpool fans about how awful we are, especially, Tony, since we lost to PSG, right? And then we gave up. We leading Crystal Palace, and we're leading Bournemouth, and we drew one game and lost the other game. We're comfortable in both games, even with Rice in the team, and yet we somehow gave up the lead and lost one, almost lost both, actually. And we still need to finish in the top 4. So it was interesting the way things materialize, but it shows you that the coach does have some halftime ability to motivate the team and to push them to maximize their potential. And it does bode well going forward to go play Newcastle this weekend, because you got to tell them, we have to make this team stop beating us. I mean, it's getting to be a joke how much they beat us actually and play against us. We have to
What's your prediction for this weekend's game?
So, okay, my heart says 2-2. My brain says the way we are playing is going to be 2-1 Newcastle. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
I love to, because the reason why is because we don't know how to take Isak. Even when we had Gabriel, we struggled with Isak. Anthony Gordon may not even start, but the wingers they have, Murphy playing so much better as assist versus scoring. And then you have, what's his name on the other side, playing well. Their midfield always play well against us. No, they don't have any, what's his name? What's the tall guy from Brazil name? Forgetting his name.
Joe Linton.
Joe Linton is not there, who's very physical with us. Willock is not there. So the only have really Tonali and Guimaraes. So, midfield-wise, and we have Partey, we have our whole midfield. I don't know if Rice is going to play or not. We have a chance, but it's going to be interesting to see how that game materializes. But hopefully we can come out with a good outcome, because if we draw, we're in the Champions League.
Yeah.
Right? If we draw in the Champions League, if we lose, then we got to beat Southampton. And all the way they played against City the other day, nothing is guaranteed. We should beat them, and nothing is guaranteed. Yeah. Any closing words, Tony, from your end?
As always, Cranky, it's been a pleasure. I love chewing the cud with you. It's gonna be an interesting summer. I can't say I've been more excited about a summer. And anybody who knows me knows I hate the summer, because we get linked with a million players and it's a constant running around going, is he any closer? Have we seen a sighting of this player at London Colney? And, you're always waiting on Fabrizio with the here we go. And it's just, I hate it. I absolutely hate all transfer windows. I think if we could get rid of it, it would make my life so much easier. I don't need the stress of Arsenal, the way in which we buy players. It's horrible.
I believe this year will be different, and here is why. We already know Zubimendi is basically in, right? Season's not even done. It's not even done. Zubimendi's in. We know we're talking to Gokares. I hear we have agreed terms. It's just to pay the fee if we don't have another competitor to get that, right? Yeah. What we don't have is that winger. That's the one thing. The winger, we don't hear anything about winger. Is very silent. We know we want Nico Williams, but we can't afford his wage, I don't think. The winger is the problem for us, and the goalkeeper. Goalkeeper, we probably get somebody, and hopefully somebody competent enough, because nowhere the young people want to go behind Araya, because he's not going to get the game time. But we need to get a good goalkeeper, and we need to get a winger. But I think the center forward may be, I wouldn't say sewn up, but pretty far along. And we know Zubimendi is in, because he's been in for a little while now, just to go sign the papers. And frankly, let me just say this before we go. Part of the recruiting is Arteta, especially Spanish players. There's nothing like a person speaking your language, having a conversation with you, and you have a good team, and you can relate to them and talk about the journey to come to England and play. And I've done it, been there, done that. And your culture is very similar. I think Arteta has been effective in recruiting some of those players, and it's very, very obvious. Right? As he said, players want to come to Arsenal. I'm sure agents are calling him, and we are calling them about this. And the person we have brought in, who was at Atletico Madrid, the new technical director, also seemed to be good at his job. So you and I, Tony, may not be spending the summer just getting frustrated, with London Coney, and I spoke to this at London Coney, and they basically says, yes, his big toe is okay. It's been taped up. He's going to be okay. We can buy him. We're tired of the nonsense. Just go buy the player, bring them in, and we're good to go. Yeah, we're good to go.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I'm very enthusiastic about our team. I'm glad that you've come to the conclusion you have about Arteta. I think we'll be singing on the same.
No. This is not the question. Tony, this year is not the question. Next year's the question. If we get the striker, right? Yeah. And the winger, and the backup winger, and we got Zubimendi, and we don't win anything, not saying the Premier League, we don't win anything. It's a different discussion next year, Tony.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But I can't think anything else but he will have us competing at the very top table again, because my instinct tells me that he's seen the promised land. He knows what he wants to do, and he knows how he wants to do it. And being headstrong about it has been what's made him successful so far. He's a very headstrong manager.
You know what's interesting too? How we are proactive in getting players to extend contracts, right? We're talking to Nwaneri, we're talking to Lewis Kelly, we're talking to Saka, we're talking to Martinelli, we have spoken to Odegaard, right? We're trying to talk to Partey now, even though I think they decided to let Partey go in and change their mind, given how well he has performed this season. We're talking to Saliba, who's Real Madrid is after. So we are trying to extend people's contract and paying them decent money and being competitive price-wise in terms of their compensation to keep them. And if you're a player on a team that's young and you get along and the coach is good and you're winning and you live in London, you should be happy.
Yeah, I agree.
You're not living in Manchester, people. Cold, wet, no activity. Anyway, I want to beat Manchester, but you're in London, a lot of activity. That's where it's happening. Yeah. So, all right, Tony.
Here's a thought for you just before I go. What do you think about bringing someone like Thierry Henry into the management arena at Arsenal? Do you think we benefit by doing?
I am not the biggest on nostalgia. I am the biggest on quality. So if he's good at what he does, and he's with France, he's been with Belgium, he's been at New York, then bring him in. But I'm not into the nostalgia thing, which is, he's a great player. He was. A lot of great players don't make good coaches. But players love him, by the way. If you hear players talk about him, you'll be about, what's his name that plays for Belgium? Lukaku talk about him. Other players talk about him. They love him in terms of the insights he provided them, how he played.
I looked at what he did with the France team in the Olympics, and obviously I was lucky to go to the Olympics last year and watch that team. And I'll be honest with you, I think he's got something. I think, the way I look at the way he worked with the players, and it was interesting. Him and Gael Clichy formed the 1-2 coach and backup for France Olympic team, and they were managing some very good players, not least of which was Michael Olise and Jean Mateta.
Mateta played really well in that tournament, by the way.
Yeah,
I don't hear people talk about Mateta, but Mateta has improved significantly over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Not at Arsenal level from where I sit, but he's a very good player. Last I said is people love Thierry Henry across the board, whether it's as a pundit, whether it's in the studio, whether it's players when they talk about him. He also speaks well. He's also he's probably multilingual. Maybe I know he speaks English and French. I don't know what else he speaks. So he does add value, but I don't know about him as a coach behind the scenes, right? All those people who are involved can tell you. So, for example, we hear about Arteta, but you don't know him because the people on the training field know him. You don't know him. Yeah. It's like your doctor people. It's like your doctor people. When you hear people talk about, my doctor is friendly and my doctor is nice and my doctor smiles, I was like, yeah, that's good. Does he know what he's doing?
I look at him and I think, what could be the value is like, you look at a player like Gabriel Martinelli, and I listen to what Thierry says in terms of the way he looks at the game, and I look and I think to myself, get him in, get him to coach that player. In the same way, I always think Ian Wright as a striking coach, you probably couldn't get much better, because as a pure out and out striker, Ian Wright was one of the best I've ever seen in my lifetime.
You know what the difference is, though, Tony? the ability to make decisions quickly and make the right decision, that's part of what differentiates Ian Wright and Henry as strikers. Do I shoot? Do I not shoot? Do I pass? Do I not put? Do I dribble? Do I not dribble? That instinctive decision in certain difficult situations that differentiate them, can I impart that to somebody else? That's the question. Because you look at Ian Wright score some goals, you're just like, damn. Those lobs, that instinctive lob, I mean, that's not something you teach. That's almost like innate to your being in terms of how you play football.
Yeah.
That's not even teachable per se. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, the keeper's off his line by two steps. If I kick it, he can't take more than one step backward. That's hard to teach. It's hard to teach. And he used to do those things. Go watch some of his goals, people. You see what I'm talking about.
Regularly.
I'll watch him. Henry was just, to me, so skillful, so graceful and so skillful, just glide by people. Just a differentiator. Hey, Tony, it's been wonderful as usual. Love to have the banter with you. Love to have the conversation.
Yeah.
I know it's about almost 10 o'clock your time.
Yeah.
So appreciate you, sir.
No
all right,
problem.
Bless up.
Take care.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Tony. All right, people. Well, it's great being here. I know I haven't done too much Reggae Boy content or Jamaica football content of late. I will be doing some in the next few days. I want to talk about a subject, but I've been told that I can't have the conversation yet, and I'm not getting any perspective on having it. And I really want to have that conversation. I think it's important. But there are some things that needs to be discussed and talked about. As you know, Jamaica is playing Guatemala on June 10th in Jamaica, and before that they're playing BVI, and then they're playing Guatemala, I think, again on the 19th in the Gold Cup. So that should be interesting. Juras says, "What's going on with Chung?" No comment, Juras. No comment. I'll come back to you on Chung at some point, people. But I can't talk about Chung now. But it should be interesting, actually, to see how the Reggae Boys team work out and what players come in. I think if you want the players come in on the right peak, and tell them figure the play of them passport, because Pika are all at the process. Let me just say that now. Pika are all at the process. Sanjay Brooks says 60-man squad. Yeah, 60-man enough people. You can't put anybody on a 60-man. There's only 20-something I got it eventually going to be there. But no, Jamaica should be, I'm not going to talk about Unity Cup. I haven't spent much time looking into the Unity Cup. I'm more focused on the World Cup qualifiers and the Gold Cup and the squad and who going to be in the squad. So that should be really interesting how that will materialize and how that will work out. I may be traveling by plane, by the way, to a couple of destinations. And one of them may be into Jamaica. I haven't finalized yet, but I may go to Jamaica to go watch some football and just to get some. I haven't been to Jamaica for a while, so I need to go down there and go enjoy the country and enjoy the food. So we'll see. But anyway, thanks for being here. I appreciate you being here. As I said before, I will be having some more shows, if not later this week, then a few next week. And I'll see you when I see you. So appreciate you. Peace out. Thanks. Frankie Life is the best to be now. For the best sports talk and it's free, yo. Frankie Life will be your guiding light by keeping you informed both day and night. Frankie Life, tell them. Frankie Life, heed them. Frankie Life, want them. Frankie Life. From the courts to the field, we'll never lose because Cranky has the hottest news. With expert analysis, we break it down. Our in-depth coverage is best in town. Cranky Life, tell them. Cranky Life, heed them. Cranky Life, want them. Cranky Life. Cranky Life, where the sports is spicy and where we keep the discussion lively. Cranky Life, get to know the name because Cranky analysis is never lame. Cranky Life, give me my Cranky Life. I want my Cranky Life. Must have my Cranky Life. Whether it's football or track and field, you know Cranky is at the wheel. So join the journey through victory and defeat and subscribe and don't miss a beat of Cranky Life. Tell them, Cranky Life. Heed them, Cranky Life. Want them, cranky live. If you're from England or USA, from Kingston or Bombay, from Kenya or Canada, Lagos or Havana, visit Cranky Live. Tune into Cranky Live. Like up Cranky Live. Subscribe to Cranky Live. Cranky Live. Coming to you on weekdays. Cranky Live sometimes on Sundays. Pull up a chair and take a seat because Cranky will always bring the heat. Cranky Live. Me say fi tell them Cranky Live. Me say fi heed them Cranky Live. On them Cranky Live. Cranky Live will be around. Cranky Live is the best in town. Me say fi eat them. Me say fi want them. Me say fi eat them. Want them, eat them, want them. Cranky Live. Cranky Live. Eat them, want them, eat them, want them. Cranky Live. Cranky Live. Eat them, want them, eat them, want them, eat them, want them. Cranky Live. Cranky Live. Cranky. Eat them, want them, eat them, want them. Eat, want, eat them.